And that was for me the point that I said, okay, what I think that, and this sounds a little bit, I don't know, awkward, but what I think that everybody knows, not everybody knows this. So perhaps I will have to write it in a book.
Hello, Leticia.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. I have a very, my very first question is always about youth, your youth. And what is a happening or an event or a period when you were a teenager that, if you look at it now, stands out?
I think that I would go back to my 6th grade when I was almost 18 years old. It was my last year of secondary school, and it was my first year as a student that I could do anything I wanted to do. It was a year that I had I could play an Helena in the school. How do you call that?
A play?
A play, yes. Yeah. I was Helena. I followed the course to help people when there was an emergency. I could do anything else, and it was the first year that I didn't felt the need to study, because I already had achieved anything that I was supposed to achieve. So this was very important for me that year. It was my best year in my whole school period.
Okay. So when you say what you were supposed to, was that what you wanted or what your parents wanted?
No,
or?
most of the time what my parents wanted.
Okay.
I have 3 sisters. My father was the only working person in the house, so we had a big family. My mother was a housewife, and she was always saying to my 3 sisters and myself that we couldn't be dependent on anyone in our future life, because she was, and it wasn't very nice to her. We had a happy family and happy youth. Nothing happened, of course, but she was dependent, and she was a very strong woman. But she always had to wait for my father. She always had to wait for his paycheck. He worked very hard, of course, because he had to pay everything that was that we had to pay for. But that was the first thing that she said: you don't have to be dependent on anyone. So please, please work very hard and get those grades so you can achieve anything that you want to achieve in your life. And I did so until my 17 years old. And that was for me then in my last year. I said, okay, I just have 1 year. I'm going to make the best of it to make myself more social, for example, because I was always studying. And that was my changing moment in as a young girl of almost 18 years old.
Okay. Nice. You were talking already, or mentioning your mom and also your dad. So when you go back, what did you love the most about what they did, as far as you remember?
Oh, well, my father, he was very working hard for his family. He did everything for us because he didn't have the chance to make a career. So he did every effort he could make to give us the chances to do what we wanted to do. So I really appreciate that until still today. For my mother, she was now I know that she was my idol, because she was the first woman who, and excuse me, I'm going to change that. She was the first woman who always said to me, you don't have to be dependent on anyone else. You can be yourself, but you have to work for it. Nothing comes for free. You have to work for it. And it was something not particularly for that moment, because you could easily said, okay, let's look for a husband who is going to pay your bills, and you have a nice life, etc. No. She said you have to work it for yourself, and you have to be the independent woman, not the career one especially, but you have to be something special. And she also noticed that my three sisters and me, we had the potential to do so. And she was always fighting against the system. For example, I know a period that schools were getting funded if they knew that your mother wasn't having a diploma. And I was really angry about that, because it meant automatically that you couldn't study, that you had less potential, and that you were something that people had to put effort in you, because you were like the vulnerable bird. And I said, no, my mother was really working hard for it. She was very proud of us, and she taught us what to do, and we don't need help from anybody. We have to work for it by ourselves. And that was something really strong of her. And of course, her cookings, her laughters, all that kind of things.
Yeah. So I understand there was a very good bonding between you and your mom.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah.
Nice. Then, if we go to the other side of the spectrum, is there anything that you didn't like about what they were doing in a way that you made up for yourself? This later I will not do.
Well, the other side of the medal was that my mother was always afraid, and she was always controlling everything. So we couldn't come home with a grade less than 7 or 8 out of 10. So it also meant you work hard, but if you don't, then you don't go out, you get punished, etc. So that was the other side of the medal. And that was something that I always said to myself, I won't do that with my children. I'm not going to raise them with this slight thing of fear, because there was always a kind of fear in studying, because again, my father had to work hard. We had just one chance to go to the university, and if we didn't get the chance, if we didn't pass the exams, it was finished. So, and I really wanted that diploma. I really wanted to have that university degree, because that was always said to me, you have to be independent, etc., etc. So there was no moment that I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to get out, I'm going to have fun with my friends, and I'm going to do this and that, and later on I will study. No, I was also very in control of everything I was doing. So my student period on the university was quite a stressful period. So I had to finish it in 4 years. I had to work afterwards. So I had a steady income, and I had the certainty, and I had the independency, etc. So that was really a strong thought in my mind, but also in the way I was living every day.
Yeah.
And it also, well, a little bit formed me for a long time.
Yeah. So that, because my question was, what did you dislike? In a way, maybe you kind of disliked it at the moment itself, but it might have brought you something.
Yes, of course. The thing was, because of the hard work, and of course the certainty, because she was always thinking about, you have to be certain about your income and your paychecks, etc. So go out and look for a job that gives you that certainty. And for me, that was teaching, because I studied Latin and Greek. What can you do with a diploma, Latin and Greek, in, for example, insurance companies? Nothing. That was a thought at the time. So I was going for a teacher. And I was, the last years, I was a little bit angry about her, that I got into the education system, because that wasn't my way. That wasn't my career. I was like fun of all those blonde ladies in Dynasty. I don't know if you follow Dynasty. They were so pretty.
Yeah.
And they had a career, and they had everything. And I was like a little girl of 8 years. Oh, I wanted to become like one of these ladies. And no offense, but then I got into education. That was totally different.
That was not Dynasty.
No, that was not Dynasty at all.
It's not too much place for princesses there. So, in a way, I had in my mind what did those things do with you, but you explained it already, that, in a way, you got, the endurance and the workmanship to work hard. But then, in a way, you found out that that was not your thing to do,
No.
being teacher. That was, in a way, not your talent.
Well, if I divide it in several parts, every part of it was okay. It was like working with, in this case, young people. It was developing skills. It was it was with Greek and Latin, something that I was very interested in, and it was also in a certain environment, and that was something that worked for me. But the whole system as such, and what you can do, but especially what you can't do, that was something that didn't work for me. And I was feeling that already at the very, very beginning, when I was in my first weeks of teacher,
Yeah.
that there was something that didn't work for me, but I couldn't point it out what that actually was.
Okay.
So I was just like, I'm not experienced enough. I'm seeing things that aren't there, so I'm just going to try this one. I worked for this, so I'm going to do whatever was told me and taught me to do. But after almost 20 years, I really had to admit that that wasn't my way anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But you felt it almost right away that
almost
was
right away.
not
But there
what you
wasn't
wanted.
another option. So voila.
Okay, nice. And then in those 20 years, if you in a way, the way I see it now is you delivered yourself by really studying what should happen in for example, in education? Or
Yes, but that was not really like I was proactively working in what should change. It was like developing during my lessons when I was working with these young people. I always wanted to challenge myself in several ways, in cooking, in teaching, in my children, whatever. And in every classroom, you had these students who were always getting these 9s and 10 out of 10s. And I was always like, okay, what are they learning? They're just reproducing the knowledge that I'm giving them. That's no fun about it. So then I was looking for systems or materials that could challenge them more. Because what I also saw was that these young people divided themselves in two groups. And the first one was they got lazy because it was very easy. In fact, that's the point of perspective as a teacher. They got lazy. They didn't do anything anymore. But the other ones were like control freaks. And they were discussing about every little point that they didn't earn, for example. And that was not the way of growing and of challenging yourself. So I studied and learned along the way that if you would challenge your students by giving them materials that got them out of their comfort zone, that they would learn more and they would develop more skills. So I was looking for things for Latin and Greek, but I couldn't find it. So I thought, okay, what doesn't exist, then I'll make it myself. So I started developing slide courses, small courses in these 2nd grade, 4th grade, 6th grade. And that was the beginning of challenging all these students and knowing for myself, oh, this is nice. You can become somebody else than the thing that people are thinking of you. And that was very interesting for me because all these developings in these students was most of the time like a mirror to me. And I was very proud of my students. But then also sometimes I was thinking, oh my God, I should had done the same thing. I also should have had those persons, perhaps teachers, who would not always say you have to get an A grade or a 9 out of 10 or a 10 and then you will succeed. No. The point is you have to develop what's inside you, what skills you have, and then you can go on. Because that was the thing that was happening. I developed these courses for my best students, but something magically happened. That was that students that I didn't notice as being strong students, they were like interested immediately and all of a sudden. And the thing was that my courses weren't focused on getting knowing the things, getting absorbing knowledge, but really developing the skills to analyze things, to whatever, but to work with things. And that's, for me, was like an eye-opener through my students, that I missed that way of working when I was a student. And that was the starting point where I thought, oh my God, I think there is something more in me, but I don't know yet what. And I don't know how to put it in the world. So I'm staying in education because it's comfortable, because I have my job, I have my children, I have my family. So it all has to be in balance, of course.
Yeah.
But that was during my career, the moment, the little so touchy moments that taught me there is something else for you.
Okay. So the education system educated you.
In a certain way, it did.
Wow.
Yes.
It's the story is wonderful, because it's wonderful how it shows how you discovered your talents.
Yes, and the thing is, it's after these things that I started studying about it, because I was reading about it, of course, also through my kids. I was reading about it because I wanted to understand what was happening. But then I reflected it on my career and on what I was doing. And the thing was, I was always creating things. I was always organizing things, like quizzes, like trips to whatever city. I was always selling things. I was like, the little entrepreneur, but within the education system. And that was something that I didn't felt at the beginning when I was starting as a teacher. I wasn't realizing that I was like a little entrepreneur.
Oh.
Little, perhaps big in the future.
Yeah. I think, potentially big entrepreneur. Now, nice. And maybe just to go back, then the title of your book that you worked on so hard, but before we started, you said I worked on it 18 months. But when I hear your story now, you worked on it 20 years.
Yeah, perhaps. Yes, that's true.
Because a lot of the notes you took years ago are still maybe not literally in the book, but you can feel that the book is a witness of somebody that knows what you are talking about.
Well, yes, the stories that are in my book, they are true stories. And some of them are my stories. That's also true. But most of them are like from old students, and also from adults that I don't coach them, but I help them.
Always. You need almost a vocabulary to know what exactly is coaching and mentoring and teaching, and so
it's a difficult one. But that's
let's
another
not
discussion.
go. That's for another session. But the as soon as I knew that the book was coming, The Talent Trap, it attracted me a lot, because in my life I worked with more than 1,000 young talents, and most of them they all wanted to become a cyclist. Of the 1,000, about 30 became a cyclist. That means 3%, which when you look at it, that you want to see cyclists, then that's nothing. But still, that's a good grade.
Yeah.
But I was way more worried and about those 970, so to speak, to a point that I wanted them to if you cannot become a cyclist, then try to figure out who you are. And then, because I said it so many times to them, after a while, they almost made a song of it. Oh, Bernard will tell you, go find your values and your talents, discover your passions, and do things with impact. Which became my mantra and is also what I do nowadays. So as soon as I saw the talent trap, I'm like, wait a minute, this will be good for me to read this, to study that. And to be honest, this is one of the very first times that I read so much detail where the theory is right, but where you can see it in a practical way. So my very first question is that when, obviously 18 months ago or a little more, but what was like the point where you thought, I need to do something for those high potentials, those people with potentially a lot of talents and stuff? When did you figure out for yourself, this becomes a major goal, and a good thing would be that I have a book about it?
Oh, that's a difficult one, because I started first with young people, but through these young people, those parents, their parents came to me and they said, we have the same problems in our working environments. And one of these mothers told me, you have to go to the adult group, and you have to go to the people who are working in companies, etc. And that was the moment when I changed it. But I saw exactly the same things happening over there than what happened in education system. And that was for me the point that I said, okay, what I think that, and this sounds a little bit, I don't know, awkward, but what I think that everybody knows, not everybody knows this. So perhaps I will have to write it in a book so they could get to know to what's happening right now. Because if parents of children say to me, we have the same problems as our children have, and you solve it with our children, can you help us solving our problems? As an employer or as an employee, it didn't matter. That was a moment that I saw, okay, I'll change that. And that was the moment that I saw that the whole system of recruiting, mentoring, managing, the whole organization within companies was like a trap for a lot of talents, potentials that inside the building. And there was one moment, I remember it. I was having an appointment with somebody, doesn't matter who, and I was waiting in the big hall. It was like a very big company, and I was waiting in the hall, and I was really looking at all these people. It was like 10, 20, 30 people who were walking about aside. And I was telling myself, who of all these people know exactly what talent they really have? They're badging, they're taking their coffee, they go upstairs, they have their bag, and some are very in a speedy way, other ones are wandering, but always the same thing. They enter the building, they badge, they go upstairs. And I was really asking myself, most of these people don't even know how much talent they already have, but they just do what they got up, they got the train or traffic, and they went to their job, they are doing their job, and they go back home, and voila, that's it. And that's for me a real trap, because we're like in a so rigid system. And it's so like in our walls, in our society, in our traffic, in our way of speaking, in our way of interacting with each other, that we forget to see what's behind all that. And that was also the moment that I was reflecting on my students again. Van, okay, Leticia, remember those students you didn't notice in your classroom? They were always the quiet ones, or the most annoying students, of course. You also had those most of the time boys. Sorry to say that.
No, don't, because I was one of those. But definitely.
And then I was thinking, okay, what could happen so that people are more, it's not about being happy, but it's about giving impact in your job, in a way that works for you, but it also benefits the company. And I really, really can't understand why CEOs, for example, don't see that this kind of happiness, working happiness, as being impactful in your job, in your interaction with other people, affects the business. I really don't understand that. And we're all complaining about the school system and what doesn't work over there and what they all should do. And believe me, there are a lot of teachers who really want to do that, but they are not allowed to do that because of government system, etc. But the same thing is happening in the company world and in the working world. So we have like a little bit and that hurts me sometimes also, that we have like the attitude to putting the responsibility to education, which for part it is, but it doesn't stop over there. That's my turning point as 18-year-old. You go to or 22 years old, you go into a working environment, and then you experience, and that's the problem with high potentials. They have like the dream that everything there will be very nice and good, and then it will work. No, it doesn't. And the thing is, most of these high potentials hear that already for the fourth time in their life, that the second step will be the good one. The first one is when they go to the first grade when they're 6 years old, then 12, then 18, then 22 or 23 years old. And then you have the disappointment at your 27 years. Oh my God, I'm just in the same system. What's happening? And that's the moment where a lot of high potentials, like most of them 80%, are disengaging, demotivated. And some of them are, okay, they get a burnout, or they go away, or they do something completely irresponsible, whatever. And that's the trap.
Yeah.
And that's why I found it my responsibility to give a face to all these others, high potentials, so they themselves would recognize themselves in it. And that's what the first readers of my book are already telling me. Oh my God, I recognize myself in that, like the thought provoker of the Master of Precision, etc. But it's also giving a face to the employees. So managers or leaders or CEOs or companies could recognize them faster than they are doing right now. Not only them, but also in recruitment, for example.
Yeah, but I think I totally agree. Yeah? And that's also why as soon as I got the book, that I read it, and it is very recognizable. But I think at the end of the day, it's as soon as we got the industrial system, we needed more people that did all the same. So then the schooling system that existed before changed a little bit, because before it was really high level for people that were high
and had money.
Yeah, had money. So the school system before was for privileged people.
Yes.
Okay. The moment the industrial system really started to work with the Ford automobile manufacturers, there you had the long chains that everybody did the same. So we need people that are trained for that.
Yes.
That's how we really, for a big part, changed the schooling system. So then the question was not, what are you good in? The questions were, can you do this?
Yes.
Can you do that? If not, we will prepare you for it. And everybody coming out of that system lived with that system. So a lot of people nowadays that are in control of companies are a product of that system. And in a way, as long as it was linear, it kind of worked, because there was profit. Since there was profit, you could pay wages to the people. With the wages, more and more, they could start buying a little bit of luxurious things. So it became comfortable.
Yes.
And because it was comfortable, people were made comfortably numb.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a comfort zone.
and it's still like that, huh?
Mhm.
Because now we are in a period of awakening, like, oh, it's not
Yes.
working anymore. Yeah, because you are not trained years ago for the speed of today.
Yes, and I think we have a second problem, if you would call it that way, and that's the young people, the students, the Gen Z
See?
and the
Yeah.
young millennials. They are now more used in education system to be coached, helped as the way they are. Because of the teachers, but also because of the parents. And they start as a working force, but they don't work with the mindset that is already, working today. So you have a little now. It's a little, but I think it's becoming bigger and bigger if we don't change anything. The clash between what was working, let's say, until pre-COVID, and now, because those Gen Zers, the first ones, are working nowadays, the CEOs, etc., they get more problems in attracting, retaining those young potentials. But if you combine these things, like working the way I work the best, the most with my talent, because I'm learned to do so, because I was set and told to do so, um, combined with intellectual possibilities or critical thinking, etc. That's very challenging for companies today
Yeah.
to retain those people, and they're coming, and it's getting more challenging than we are already talking about now. So
Yeah, totally. And in my experience, with that change, we always talk about Gen Z.
mhm,
Okay, because that's the majority of that move.
yes,
But there is also already quite a lot of millennials that
yes,
would have hoped
yeah,
for that now say, now is my chance.
yes. And I'm the generation before the millennials,
Yeah,
and
because
I was always following. And this is what a lot of my colleagues and friends also feel. It's that they miss something because they always follow the system because it was normal at the time. And I'm not saying bad about that time. It worked
no,
then, but now it doesn't anymore.
no, because at the beginning, let's say with the Industrial Revolution, when see it this way, that the bigger companies, the industry,
Mm-hmm.
called the people from the farmlands,
Mm-hmm.
telling them, come work with us.
Mm-hmm.
We will give you a job. So there is money to put food on the table. We will get you a roof above your head, and we will get an education system for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, the basic needs of Maslow are there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the system was made.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you got all those people doing it. So the very first reason was safety.
Yes.
Safety. And it's only later that we built the comfort layer on
Mm-hmm.
top of it. So much that after a while we only looked for comfort because we thought it is safe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only with COVID
Yes.
then we start seeing, geez, that comfort zone is not the safety zone anymore.
No.
There was a shift.
Yes, because also people discovered that there are several ways of working, like literally at home or in a working place. But that's just a small part of it. But it's just an example of how people discovered for themselves different types of working and different ways of connecting with each other. And that was the start. And for the Gen Zers, they started afterwards. So for them, that's the only way they know how it can work. But it's not only, of course, it's not only for them. It's for everybody. And that's the change we face today. But if you want to have like a moving group with all these individuals who really want to work together, but they're all individuals, and you have to mold them in a system that it's like this, that there's the friction.
Yes.
But there's also the possibility of shifting the process, because companies that understand that they have to change a little bit, it's nothing big, it's nothing huge, but if they shift a little bit, that's where they can go and taking the new way, the new pace way, fastest way.
Yeah, we will come to that directly. Just one more question I have: do you have uh, a reason for yourself where till now we still overlook so much talent and so much potential? Let's say.
I think because it's quite easily just to have the system, like the tests, you get 9 and a 10 out of 10. So it's easy. You're good. You're not. That's the simple
Yeah. Okay.
way of thinking. That's the first thing. I also think that, and that's a kind of a difference between education and working environments, as in companies, for example. Um, if a manager would see like a high potential, that's possibly a threat to his or her position. And you don't have that in school system, because every year you have new classes, new students, and they pass to the second teacher, your colleague, and
Yeah.
there you don't have this this competition. I think that it's something we don't know, but something we also stop actively, because it's possibly a threat to our own position.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think about it that way, but definitely, yeah. Before we go into the PACE
Mhm.
model, I have just to clarify for the people listening and watching, because those words a lot of times are mangled up, and
Mhm.
then so you can be gifted,
Yeah.
then there is talent,
Yes.
and there is potential,
Mhm.
maybe even high potential.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit those three words, because I think it is important. We use those words a lot,
Mhm.
but there is a difference.
Well, how should I say it? Most of people think, when they talk about talent, they think about good cooking, singing, dancing, sports, etc. And that's okay. That's a kind of a talent. But to have this talent, for example, for cycling, you need a gift. That's something in you. And it's a combination of several skills that gives you the possibility to develop the talent that everybody is seeing on, for example, the in
T-
Rwanda at the moment,
Yeah, the World
the
Championship.
World Championship. Yes, of course. Um, so if you have it inside you, that's your gift. It's given to you in your DNA. It's nothing that somebody gave you and say, "Voila, this is for you." No, no, you have it in your DNA. But then you have to develop it, and therefore you need the right circumstances. You need the right persons around you, the right moment. Sometimes a little bit luck, of course. You need the insights. You need the inside motivation and the workforce,
Mhm.
etc., to develop it for the talent that everybody is seeing. And I think this is a big difference, because again, people said to me when I was quitting my job as a teacher, "Oh my God, why are you stopping? Because you're so good with young people." Okay, you could see that as a talent, but that wasn't my talent. My talent was working with people, was getting the best out of them, was creating things, was doing things that I wasn't supposed to do, but then make it work. That is what I was given. And now I'm translating it or working it into a talent so that I can make my own business. And that's something completely different. And I think people should really, hmm, sorry to say that, but to stop talking about you have talent, you have talent, you have talent. No, 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 because it's always an ending point. It's not, talent is an ending point. That's not a start, and a gift is something you have. You can always work with that. And talent is having his point now, but within 2 years it's something different, and then it's something different again. And that's, I think, it's also high leveling, for example. So it gives a lot of pressure to people. And you need a little pressure to come out of your comfort zone. Okay, that's true. But sometimes I think about those soccer tournaments where every child gets its medal
Yeah.
for the games they
Yeah.
played at that day. But the medal is a medal for the effort they did that day. it's not for the soccer talent they have, and that's a big difference. So you have to talk with your children and say, okay, what did you do today? And what was really fun, and what worked for you, and what would you like to challenge more? Instead of saying, oh, you got a medal, so you have the talent. And that's, in my point of view, the a big difference, but also a little bit the problem we have in framing talent in a way that's more getting people stuck than that it's helping them to develop themselves. And then, like the high potentials, okay, there you can talk about it in several ways. For me, high potentials aren't the 300 employees in a company of 20,000 people. This is really like a little fraction of all the potential high potentials that is in a company. High potentials are people who are proactive, take initiative, they are smart, etc., etc. But that's the list where also you have the boxes to tick, and if you don't, you're not a high potential. Bad luck. No. A high potential is somebody who has the combination of this intelligence, the creativity, the motivation, the feeling of making the impact, but also knowing what his positive things, his how should I call it, starting points, and then work with it so they can make the best out of it. And if you just talk with the high potentials or work with high potentials that are like in the beginning ticking all these boxes, then you miss, like I said, like 80% of the real high potentials you have in your company. And it does involve intellectual capacity, of course, but it's not the but it's not the voorwaarde, the condition.
The condition, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
It's not a condition.
Okay, do I understand it right that so it is, at the end of the day, a high potential is really seen the moment he or she puts everything they know in whatever way into action?
Yes, also always with a positive mind of thinking, always with being aware of your surroundings, about the people around, respect, of course. But 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation with somebody from a company, and they said, "Oh, we only have high potentials, and like the 300 of more than 20,000 of all of our employees." And I was immediately thinking about my students with the 9s and the 10s that were obviously the best students. Everybody in the teacher room was talking about them because they were the next doctors and lawyers, etc., etc. But that's not the real thing. That's not what's happening right now. We have a lot of big talents in these students who have now a very nice career, who work very hard, but are not the typical high potentials. And this is a great loss for companies if they don't want to see that, if they don't want to widen up their lists, and even not even working with the list. Because I wasn't working with lists when I was working with my students. That didn't happen.
Okay. Let's go into the P.A.C.E model. Sorry that I need to be short because we still have a lot to do. So the P.A.C.E model, it's an acronym?
Yes, it's an acronym.
And the P stands for person.
Yes.
The person behind the talent, so to speak, or with the talent. So, as far as I understand, in your book, you explain that there are 5 defining characteristics, right?
Yes.
So, if you could just explain a little bit these, which is high intellectual ability, creativity, motivation, and then also giftedness and neurodivergence.
Yes, yeah. Well, the high intellectual capacity is about learning fast, seeing the solutions very fast, making the combinations, but in a faster way than the mid group, I would say. This is first of the intellectual capacity. The creativity is making combinations that no one has ever seen before, but at a moment that you are not supposed to know it yet. So it's very important for a manager, for example, that if he or she is having a meeting and somebody who's new in the group sees solutions that everybody's already know that solution, but for this person it's the first time that he or she is making that exercise, then it's like a lamp for the manager to know, okay, this person has a lot of capacity. And you really don't say at the moment, okay, but we all know that already. No, that's you don't do that.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of creativity, but also the critical thinking, thinking beyond the boundaries, for example.
Yeah.
And then the motivation, of course, is it has to be effective, it has to make impact, and it has to be useful. If you have to do things that you are supposed to do because, for example, the system says you have to do that, then you are losing your high potentials. This is the golden 3 combination.
Yeah.
And then extra, but not necessary, you have like the giftedness, like the people who have an IQ above 130 and even more. They do it more fast, more creative, more combination, motivation binded. So this is more, important for them.
Yeah.
This is the second thing, and they feel also a little bit more how people work. So they're like the sensitivity is bigger and more in the game. And then the neurodivergency is something extra in this person component, because a lot of people now discover about themselves that they have like ASS, ADHD, dyslexia, etc. And it was always putting them aside or covering their potential. But that's the thing, if you have your results, even with this ADHD or dyslexia or whatever, then you could really say that these people have a strong capacity and possibility to stand far. Verder. Oh my God, sorry.
No worries. Further development in your job, which is in a way a big turning point, because
yes,
before, if you were diagnosed with any of those things, it was almost like, oh, too bad, this person has HD, or it's all like, oh, bad luck.
Yes, and you have this discussion. Do you have to know that? Is it possible? Is it important enough, etc.? Okay, that's another discussion. But it's the real life for these persons, day in, day out, and that's the thing that I was talking about a few minutes ago. Young people are more aware of these, let's call it labels. So they accept also that the environment is noticing this, and is also allowing that this is a part of their working force.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like for the neurodivergency.
Yeah.
But it's just a little part for person. Person is more like, who are you? The speed in the way you think, and the combination you can make in your creativity, motivation linked.
Yeah. Okay. So then we have a person,
Mm-hmm.
and that person, the A stands for autonomy.
Yes.
Do I understand it right? That means that person needs to have room, space, so that he or she can develop.
Motivation is automatically linked to autonomy. And also the creative thinking. Creative thinking is creating things, and there you need some space. You need also the trust, the responsibility, of course, but also the space to create the things. And the more you are obliged to do things like KPAs, etc., then you don't have the time nor the possibility to use that creativity. And this autonomy is that's the motor of every high potential. If they don't get this straight or right, then it stops. Then it really stops. The autonomy is one of the biggest points in developing their own skills and possibility. And if a company is always in these rules, in these procedures, then the autonomy it doesn't get any room. So this is very important for them.
Okay,
of course.
Might that not be one of the reasons why the Gen Zs are now really standing on their grounds, like, hey.
Yes, of course. And that's the point where a lot of companies have problems. But again, young people, they are grown up with the situation that they were involved in every discussion at home. And this is not where the managers nowadays are used to. They are not used to young people who give their opinion and who say, no, let's do it this way, because I think, from my point of view, that this is a better way to make this solution.
Yeah.
And that's the autonomy part of the whole P.A.C.E framework, of course, but also the important thing of high potentials, where they can thrive. And then it's, of course, the way you interact with it. You give the possibility, you coach it, and you give the possibility to use that autonomy. Because autonomy doesn't mean that you give them all the freedom. They need the framework, but they also need the place, the space to bounce a little bit. And sometimes also to discover what's, when you have the boundaries, okay, what's next? What can I do in the next step outside?
Yeah.
What's to discover over there? But because that's what high potentials also have. They also want to discover all the time. And if you put it like, okay, this is the boundary, you can't go further because this is our department, this is our way of working, we already doing it like for several years, and we're not changing that. Okay, that's the first door open where high potentials say, okay, let's see it, and let's see it within another period or another life.
Okay. So then the C of challenge is in a way something you just talked about. As soon as you have the framework and they want to, that's kind of a challenge already, or do I see it wrong?
No. The thing is that high potentials always want to learn. They also want to grow, but learn and grow the way they are. That's the person, of course, not the way the company wants them to learn. So they also want to learn as in knowledge, but also, for example, in career, they want to grow. But with challenge also comes fear, because that's also a challenge. How do I achieve my goal? That's linked to the motivation that's in the person, and that's also different from every individual. And that's the point where they need somebody else. And that somebody else is in the E, in the environment. And that's the manager or the mentor or the culture of the company. So it goes that way. They start as the P, they start as the person, and they really have the dream, the idea that they can grow, that they can challenge themselves in the way that works for them. That's the A, the autonomy. But they don't do it by themselves because it's challenging to get to the goal, to achieve your goal.
Oh.
And that's where the environment is playing his role, the E of the P.A.C.E framework. And that's most of the time how they see it, where it goes wrong. And that's at the same time the opportunity for a lot of companies to see what they can do to make this it's a framework, but it's also a mindset to make it work for these high potential. And if it works, not only individually, because that they don't ask to change everything the way they are, they ask to change it so it's big enough, important enough, and useful enough to take the time and effort it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And that's also the point where young people say, no, I'm not going to put that effort in it because I don't see the use of it.
Yeah.
And that's where the point, okay, work-life balance. That's the entering point of work-life balance. So they are more rich in vocabulary to talk about it, and they are also used to talk about it with other people because they're raised to it.
Yeah.
And I think at this moment that companies are not used to that kind of, call it behavior.
Yeah. No, they are not. Definitely
But that's not the fault of the Gen Z.
No. Well, I need to admit that then it was Millennials, but when I stopped in 2016, I stopped with my entire cycling endeavor. So I had the cycling school, the cycling center, where I had 1,000 guys, and then I had a professional team. and I stopped. And one of the main reasons why I stopped was what I was thinking then, is that, wow, a 20-year-old,
Mhm.
when I started in 93,
Mhm.
is a complete different than a 20-year-old
Yeah.
in 2016. So honestly, I blamed them.
Mhm.
It's only via Luc de Wolf, who I got to know with Ik kies voor mijn talent. He made me realize that I got 25 years older also
Mhm.
between 93 and 16
Yes.
or whatever, So it was like, oh, I did not evaluate the way they did.
Mhm. Uh, in a different way.
Yeah, but what I mean is that the things, as you mentioned very correctly, the way they change now, the way younger people look at life,
Mhm.
is also based on, in a way, the questions I asked you in the beginning, where everybody looks up to your parents,
Mhm.
and then there's things that you think, oh, this is great,
Mhm.
and these are things we would not do.
Mhm.
So it is, in a way, a logical following that nowadays more young people start to ask why.
Yes. And
Why
they're
should I do
right.
this?
They're right to do
Yes.
so because, and that um, says enough of them that they are, in a way, more critical thinkers because they want to have more impact. If it is it for themselves or for the environment or for somebody else, that's something else. But they are more critical thinkers in that way. So, but it's not easy to work with if you have another way of working.
No, but the critical thinking, I think, in the adult world, in
Mhm.
the leaderships world, in the management world, we talk already for a long time about critical thinking.
Mhm.
So I think it's now about 10, 15 years that there is the book of Simon Sinek,
Mhm.
The Why.
Mhm.
So we should have read it, but it's only now Gen Z that really put it into practice.
Yes.
And maybe they did not read it. Do you understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yes, of
I mean,
course.
we all talked about it. Oh, Simon Sinek, da da da. Yeah,
Mhm.
but we needed young boys and girls.
Yeah, well, and that's the difference. The Simon Sinek generation, let's call it that way, they talk about it. They
y-
talk about it,
Yeah,
and the Gen Z is doing it.
is doing it exactly right.
And that's a big difference, I believe. Um, and okay, that's where the environment is so important, so they
Yeah,
can they facilitate it
yeah,
in a way for their employees, and that's also the reason why I stopped teaching, because the environment, and I don't mean the school as such,
no, no, I
the building.
understand. Yeah,
I mean the whole school system. Um, that was like, yeah, it wasn't giving me the autonomy to do what I was thinking was important for my students with my possibilities. I was like feeling the challenge that I would getting them out of their comfort zone to let them grow, but in a way that I thought that would work for them. And I didn't want it to work with only you have to make 10 tests per from September until
yeah,
December. 10 tests. Okay, let's be honest.
yeah.
It's not because I have 10 figures that I know how good or how bad a student is.
No,
That's not the way it works. You have to get to know them.
yeah,
You have to talk to them, and you have to change your courses so it works for them. But that doesn't mean that you have to change your level.
no.
That's not the same thing, and that's always the translation people make. Oh, but you have to you have to set the bar a little lower. No, 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 no. I'm putting it high, but that's the bar for this person is there. For that person, it's over there, and for the other person, it's over there. And I'm just helping developing these skills so they could have a bar or achieving a bar that's higher than their starting points. And that's something completely different than saying, this is a test. Let's see what's the capacity or the potential of everybody. Okay, you're good, you're not good. Voila. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that I had to do. And I also argued about it with my colleagues. and it didn't fit anymore. It didn't work for me anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why I stopped teaching. If that would be possible,
Yeah.
I think that I still would be a teacher.
I think that can be possible or can become possible, but then you need much more people with capacity like yours.
I think there are a lot of colleagues that are capable of, but you also have to. Sorry to say that, but you also have to have the guts to do the things your own way and to argue with colleagues and to say, no, I'm not going to do it that way because you are telling me because you're older. No, that doesn't work for me. But in the end, I had more argues than positive discussions with my colleagues.
Yeah.
And okay, at a certain point, you have to make a choice. So I stopped with it.
Okay. And then we have the P.A.C.E model, but with an S at the back.
Yes,
and that is for business or in organizations.
Yes.
And the S stands, is in a way to, do I understand it right, is to sustain your P.A.C.E model.
Yes.
And then in that, how should I say it, effort to sustain, it is about space, sustaining, sculpting, and spreading.
Yes.
Can you elaborate that a little more? Like what do you exactly mean with, well, space and the sustaining, I understand, but, or I think most people will understand, but the sculpting and spreading, can you?
Well, sculpting is about sculpting your recruitment, for example, your learning and development, your management team, your leadership ideals.
Yeah.
So they could be sculpted to retain more high potentials because the way it works now doesn't work enough. So that's the sculpting part. So you are capable of sculpting your high potentials more in the way they work and are, then you allow them now to do so.
Yeah.
So that's the sculpting part. And then spreading is, of course, the culture. If you don't talk only about your values in your website, for example, in your entrance hall, but you incorporate it in your walls, in every little thing in your company, that's the spreading of the P.A.C.E culture.
Yeah.
And it's different from company to company. So you can really make that choice. It's not that one model works for everybody. You really have, depending on the circumstances and the topic you work in, you have to make some differences, of course, but it has to work correctly. And if you are fair enough to make the decisions that works for the company and for the sector you work in, then you can make the choices. You can choose your recruitments, your managers, and also your high potentials, because you have all kinds of high potentials, but you don't have to let them all in and then mold them just the way you like them to be in your company. No. You have to be straight and fair of what you want to be.
Yeah.
They are your ideal clients, for example.
Is it also not because the way companies are structured today is that everybody who works there is kind of like owned by the company, where we also live more in a world where much more stuff is fluid, where in the past you had just employees, your staff, and then the people on the workforce, where now you have also temporarily people working with you. You have also AI agents coming in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of change in dynamics, I guess. Plus, I think a mentality. If I compare it with sports,
yes.
If I look at, let's call two very popular sports we here in Belgium and in Europe understand very well: soccer, football, and cycling. And if you look at the top teams, they're all looking for talent. Okay. I think that world has in common with the corporate world or the business world is the talents are paid well, or very well, or extremely well, but they're paid well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fact. If you can't compete there, you're not in the competition.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at sports, the way you see the top teams in football and in cycling work is there is almost an unspoken agreement between the owners of the company
Mm-hmm.
and the sporter
Mm-hmm.
saying, we will hire you, we will pay you extremely well, but even more so than that, we will spend a lot of money in growing you so that we have more chances of winning our competition, because winning our competition, that is our goal.
Yes.
When you look at that dynamic and then you look at the dynamic in a company,
Mm-hmm.
there is, we want to win the competition.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we hire you because you are a talent and we pay you a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, why don't you use the same system? Because then you don't need to be afraid, I guess, of a talent walking away, because since people will know that you are also a talent pool,
Mm-hmm.
other talent will knock on the door as soon as somebody leaves. Or is this a dream, what I'm telling you?
I think it will be. I think it's possible, but it's a mindset shift 180 degrees, and I think it's in all these several layers. You have to make the changes so that you can spot your talent and that you can put them on on the place, on the spot, the role where they can be the best of themselves. It's also in the teams of cycling, everybody has his own role.
Yeah.
The autonomy there is the way they, for example, for the P.A.C.E model, the way they develop themselves in combination, in communication with their mechanicien.
The director sportif, you
the
mean?
director. So there is the autonomy where the person as such can say, okay, this works better for me, I want to try this one, and okay, let's try it, but that's our goal. And that's the autonomy they can use over there.
Yeah.
Because he or she has a challenge, but also the fear and needs somebody to help and has his own combination or her own combination. In the ideal world, I think it would work, because I think now that a lot of companies lose a lot of effort, time, and money because they don't use that system.
Yeah.
And that's not good or bad for the people itself. And I mean by that it doesn't say anything about the people themselves, but it's because of the way the companies work. For example, with recruitment, how much money does a company have to waste all that talent? I really, this is a real question for me.
Yeah.
How much money do you have that you can afford wasting talent and wasting your time and wasting your effort? You really have people that are, and with all due respect for the people who do the work, but a company pays these people for something that's not working.
Mm-hmm.
You can put that money in be more selective, in making a more solid framework, so you can select your talents the way you like it. I don't care how that is, but then in developing and in mentoring or in sustaining these people so they can stay longer, because that's another thing. And I don't know if it does. It's a part of it. But people feel the authenticity, they feel the need that they are needed. And that's something also different with, like, 10 years ago, you were needed, you were part of a big family or a big game, and etc. Competitive or not, it doesn't matter, but you were a part of it. Now it's also fluid and you can change, and that's easy because you can use your autonomy, but that does also mean that you don't have a solid base where you can start and try and be aware of your challenges and put effort in it. So it's more easy to change, but that also impacts your self-confidence. So I think it's very important for companies to see what's this person capable of. How can we change our learning and development system, for example, or our recruitment system, so these people can change? And I think spontaneously about, for example, traineeships. Most of the times they have like 2 years that a traineeship needs, or that a person needs to finish it. Why can't you just change it in systems where a person can finish it within a year? It's possible. It's really possible. So you can put this person very early into the whole system, and you have an earlier starting point instead of, no, this is our traineeship. We have these modules. You have to do this, you have to do that. And then we will decide who's good enough. Okay, people also decide, the companies also decide. Always, excuse me. But this is the moment where, when high potentials see, okay, I have to learn and do things 1 year longer. Okay, let's see where I can start somewhere else, because this isn't going fast enough for me.
Yeah. There's less patience.
There is less patience, but that's also because of the new society.
Yeah.
So it's going faster and faster, but also the minds are going faster and faster. I just learned this week, for example, that AI is a fantastic tool for high potentials, because AI can talk to you at the same speed as you think. So you have a more we are creating in that way more space between the high potentials and the company, who's moving a little bit slower, or a lot slower than AI. So this is something also to think about. How are companies going to implement this AI tool so they can nurture the intellectual needs these high potentials need to thrive in their role in a company? Because if they don't get it in the company, okay, at home they use AI and they are chatting with it, and then they have the idea, okay, somebody's understanding me. Finally I get these ideas and these conversations that I really need. But if you don't have it, if you don't have the complexity in exercises in your company, then you lose again a very important group of highly intellectual, of sometimes intellectual, creative, critical thinkers. And these are very important ones, because AI is also deleting the critical thinking. So we need this critical thinking.
Yes.
And high potentials always have the inner drive to think critical about whatever. So we need to nurture that, but also in the company environments. So I think this is a big challenge for companies, not only as a tool. How are we going to use it to repetitive tasks, etc.? No. How are we going to use it so that critical thinkers can be challenged enough and they don't walk away because you're not critical enough anymore?
Yes. Obviously, what you say is spot on for those high potentials. But in a way, if you think about it, and your company in a whole, where you have your high potentials and then your, let's call it the biggest group of people that have potential but are not qualified there. Because then with the acceleration of the speeds, there's 2 or 3 different accelerations in speed that can bring another friction. That's why I said, you have the full-on employees, but then half-time or part-time or whatever, and then AI, which is all kinds of speeds for a company that needs to get a result at the end of the day.
Yes, and that's giving me the idea that it's not only the individual that has to be flexible, it's the company that has to turn flexible. Because it's totally different now. And I don't know the answer yet, because we're in the start of a new area, I think. But it's a real issue for the high-speed thinkers, and it also involves the people in the biggest group, of course. Since we're talking about the high potentials, that's the way they think. Because again, the old system, as in 300 out of our 20,000 employees are the high potentials. This is really outdated. Completely.
And maybe a last question I have for that is because it evolves also over the years.
Mm-hmm.
You change as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there is moments that some talents become more prominent by so that will also
Yes,
a
of course.
change,
Yeah.
and if that comes together with a certain need in a company, then it's a good point. But if it is something that is like, well, with that there's not so much we can do with you, it goes, so it becomes also more open.
Open and more challenging for companies,
Yeah,
because you have to take care of a lot of people at the same time. They're all at a different point in their lives. For example, you're starting with a family. You
yeah,
need to be
yeah,
more at home, for example.
exactly.
If you're a woman or a man, that doesn't matter anymore. So
No,
you have to be at home. So that's, of course, you need this steadiness in your career, because you can't do it all. It's
no, no.
quite difficult.
Yeah,
And perhaps also this is an outdated idea. I don't know, but it's the reality. You
yeah,
just have 24 hours a day, so you have to make choices some
yeah,
way or
yeah.
somehow. Um, so it that linear system that's still very strong in our way of thinking in the companies, it's not going to work anymore
No,
in the most ways, in the most companies. And the companies that are prepared to start from that linear point, as I, for example, did as a teacher, but then all the other paths that are possible, and giving the possibility to all the people in that way to take afslag, to take enfin,
the exit.
the exits, yeah,
Yeah,
but not the exit as
yeah,
exit
yeah,
in the
yeah. But the exit on the highway.
yeah, on the
Yeah,
exit on the highway. So the people that are aware
in
of, okay, with,
intersection is
yeah,
the right
okay,
word.
so you have your highway. Okay, you have your highway. This is okay, and it works for a lot of people, and for people who wants to come again,
Yeah,
up and come again. But you also need to create the little exits, so they can do something more challenging, more deep diving, another way of making career, etc. So at a certain point, they come again on this highway because they need to. You
yeah.
can't always be in
No,
the
no.
challenging mode. That's not possible.
Okay.
But companies need to reorganize it so it works for them, and they have this inner mobility in their company, and that people are not feeling, okay, I have to change for another job in another company, but because that will be better there over there. Most of the time it doesn't, because everybody's working with the same method. And companies who are aware now today that this works, they are far ahead for other companies. And I'm really sure about that.
It's a great point to end this conversation. Leticia, wonderful. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for this talk.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.